Terwan Sarai. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Aloka Dhamma discussion, where we discuss about contemporary and practical issues we have as individual and as leaders around us, and how Buddhism define those issues and how Buddhism giving solutions for those kind of issues. As always, today also we have in our studio Venerable Sandalanka Kalana Deshana Thero and Venerable Gampa Sumanansa Thero with us. And with the greatest gratitude and respect, I warmly welcome both of you, sir, to the studio. We discuss about mindfulness and the factors which is negatively impacting the right mindfulness, which are called as 5 mental hindrances. And Venerable Sumanansa Thero explained how to control 3 of those mental hindrances. I would like to start from where we have ended last week. If you can, sir, explain how Buddhism help us in controlling the other 2 mental hindrances, which is Uddhacca Kukkucca and Vicikicca.
Mr. Karagal and dear devotees, Uddhacca Kukkucca is restlessness and remorse. In the commentaries, it is given as to how we can eradicate Uddhacca Kukkucca. Firstly, being knowledgeable about the Dhamma and Vinaya, discipline. The second one is associating with monks who have practiced the monkhood for a long time. The third one is being friends with people who have studied the Vinaya in depth. Dear devotees, in the teachings of the Lord Buddha, there is a story about the king of snakes, Erakapatta, who suffered because of his kukkucca. One day, a monk was on a boat to cross a river. While he was crossing it, he lost his balance, and when he was about to fall, he grabbed a branch. Because he suddenly grabbed it, he accidentally plucked a leaf and broke one of the rules set for the monks. Later, when he was about to die, he remembered that he had forgot to confess his wrongdoing to another monk and passed away with that regret. Because of that thought, he lost his chance to be reborn in a good realm and was reborn in the Naga world as the king of snakes, Erakapatta. Dear devotees, from this we understand how important it is to eradicate Uddhacca Kukkucca and how it affects us when we practice mindfulness. The last one is the practice of Buddhanusati. The meditation about the Supreme Buddha is a solution that can be used to get rid of all 5 mental hindrances. But it is widely used to fight doubt and wavering, Vicikicca. As we practice Buddhanusati, Dhammanusati and Sanghanusati, we develop our faith and in turn eradicate the doubt in us. When our faith increases, it helps us to practice mindfulness. These are some of the methods that the Lord Buddha has taught us to get rid of the 5 mental hindrances.
Just to remind all of you the discussion point we are at, we are discussing, we started this discussion last week, and today we are continuing the same point, how to convert a dream to a reality, or how to become successful. And we've been explaining that right mindfulness is a starting point of being successful. Having right character is another important factor to master if you want to become successful. Having right discipline is the definite starting point of building a right character. So Venerable Kalana Deshana Thero asserts, what is the path shown in Buddhism in developing and practicing right discipline?
With respect to our Venerable Gampa Sumanansa Thero, Mr. Karagala, and dear devotees, there are customs and ethics in each and every community which should have been followed by the members of it. Right discipline governs and regulates the light of each and every individual member of the community. Now, according to Samantha Pasadika, that is known as the commentaries for Vinaya Pitaka, there are multiple ways of defining discipline. One way is Samvara Vinaya, the restraint of the 5 sensory organs, namely eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the body. If we define life in a different way, it is always responding to the inputs received by these 5 sensory organs. As our individual character is determined by our responses, we need to be careful about what is received by our 5 sensory organs. For an example, if we compare our life with a computer which has input devices and output devices and also the central processing unit. The 5 sensory organs are like the input devices and our responses are the outputs. The response according to the particular input is defined by the mind, which is the main processing unit. So, if our mind is programmed or formatted in an unwholesome way or in the wrong manner, the output, the response will also be unwholesome. On the other hand, when your mind is programmed in a wholesome manner, the output will also be wholesome. And it will make your character righteous. It is what we ordinary people do. But Lord Buddha's character is showing us that we can even respond in a wholesome manner even for an unwholesome input. A good example for that can be found in the Akkosa Bharadwaja Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya. Once there was a Brahmin siblings called Bharadwaja. One of them attained monkhood under Lord Buddha. After hearing that, the other sibling, Akkosa Bharadwaja, came to see Lord Buddha and scolded him with rude and harsh words. When he had finished scolding, Lord Buddha asked the Brahmin, "Do you have guests coming to visit you?" Then this Akkosa Bharadwaja replied, "Yes, Master Gotama, sometimes I do have." "If so, when they come, do you offer them food or a snack?" asked the Lord Buddha. Then Bharadwaja replied, "Master Gotama, sometimes I do. But if they do not accept those food or snack from you, to whom does the food belongs to?" asked the Lord Buddha. "Then, if they do not accept it from me, then the food will belong to me," said the Brahmin. Then Lord Buddha finally said, "Brahmin, we do not get angry or scold others, but you became angry with us and scolded us. Since we refuse to accept the anger or scolding and blame from you, all of those belongs back to you." Now here, even though Akkosa Bharadwaja scolded Lord Buddha, did not respond in an unwholesome manner, because Lord Buddha had a supreme mind which has no kilesa or so-called defilements. Mr. Karagala, we are ordinary people, even though we can't respond in the same manner as the Lord Buddha did. But we should try our best to develop such kind of discipline in our mind.
Well, Venerable Sadalankai Kalanadasana Thero clearly explained how Samvara Vinaya is important in running this machine properly, in running our life successfully. Venerable Sumanasa Thero, what are the other disciplines we have to develop as Buddhist?
Mr. Karagala, another category of discipline is Pahana Vinaya, the abandoning of defilements by developing opposite wholesome qualities. Not only do we have to suppress the akusala, but also we have to inculcate kusala in us. For instance, it is good to abandon anger, but it is better to develop loving kindness. Similarly, you should develop wholesome qualities in you while suppressing unwholesome qualities. It is preached in the Tripitaka as So anuppannanam papakanam akusalanam dhammanam anuppadaya Chandan janeti vayamiti viryang arabati chittam pagganhati padhati Uppannanam papakanam akusalanam dhammanam pahanaya Chandan janeti vayamiti viryang arabati chittam pagganhati padhati Anuppannanam kusalanam dhammanam uppadaya Chandan janeti vayamiti viryang arabati chittam pagganhati padhati Uppannanam kusalanam dhammanam titiya asammosaya bhiyo bhavaya vepullaya bhavanaya paripuriya Chandan janeti vayamiti viryang arabati chittam pagganhati padhati. Dear devotees, this was preached by the Lord Buddha in the Samyutta Nikaya Chanda Sutta. It says, a person generates desire for the non-arising of unarisen evil, for the abandoning of arisen evil or unwholesome states, and for the arising of unarisen wholesome states, and lastly for the maintenance of arisen wholesome states. He makes effort, arouses energy, applies his mind and strives. Dear devotees, suppose there's a garbage dump and now you have to clean that area. What will you do? The first thing you do is you stop adding more trash. Then you need to start to remove the existing rubbish. After removing all the rubbish, you need to spread sand or gravel or something similar in order to make it unrecognizable as a garbage dump. If you want to make it even more beautiful, you can plant some flowers or plants to cover up that area. In the same manner, to purify your character, first you need to stop doing unwholesome deeds. Then you need to ensure that you will not do any new unwholesome deeds. With that, you should make sure that you continue your wholesome practices which you already have. Lastly, you need to start doing new wholesome practices. Mr. Karagala, this is how you can develop your character with Pahana Vinaya. The next one is Samatha Vinaya, the way of resolving conflicts that arise within a certain group of people. This is mainly used by bhikkhus and was preached for bhikkhus, so I won't be explaining this. The next one is Panyatti Vinaya, the code of discipline, also known as the Vinaya Pitaka, or the rules established by the Lord Buddha. Dear devotees, the code of discipline can be found in many professions in society. These are important because they cover manners that cannot be found in the rules. These are also important because they mold your character in a way that makes you suitable for your profession. And especially when the code of discipline is available in writing, it helps to maintain uniformity and makes it easy to communicate the discipline. Dear devotees, just as you have the code of ethics as Buddhist, we have our code of discipline, or Panyatti Vinaya, and in it contains all the precepts that helps to mold our character. Mr. Karagala, according to the commentaries, this is how you can develop right discipline.
Well, you spoke about the discipline and how Buddhism would help us improving our discipline, and through that how Buddhism would help us developing a right character. In addition to the discipline, there are general manners which are impacting and improving our character. Venerable Kalanadasana Thero, sir, is Buddhism giving us any guidance and advice about those kind of general manners?
Mr. Karagala and dear devotees, in addition to the disciplines we have discussed, Abhisamacharika Sikha, which can be found in the Lord Buddha's teaching. Now also known as in societal manners, are one of the most important factors we need in developing a right character. In Pali, they are referred as Sekya. There are 75 disciplinary precepts considered as Sekya. Some of the main manners in there are how to wear the robes properly, how to consume food, how to behave in the village, how to deliver Dhamma, and hygiene rules in the loom or toilets. Firstly, how to wear robes properly. This was mainly preached for the monks, but dear devotees, lay people also can use these concepts. For example, one precept is given like Supatichanno antaragare gamissamiti sikha karaniya. A monk should go to the village with the body well covered by a robe. In the same manner, an ordinary person who wishes to have a right character should care about his or her attire and appearance, and especially should be aware of the appropriate dress code when going somewhere. Now, next is the manners to consider when consuming food. There are 30 precepts for this in the Sekya, but I'm highlighting just 2 here. Na chapu chapu karakam bunjissamiti sikha karaniya. And another one given, na surusuru karakam bunjissamiti sikha karaniya. The meaning of this, when consuming food, chew with your mouth closed so that sounds like chapu chapu aren't made. The other one is that when drinking, do not make slurping noises such as surusuru. These precepts must be observed to develop ways of consuming food in a disciplined manner that would not cause unpleasantness and revulsion to the people around us when we are partaking of food. The next one, I would say, how to behave when going outside or in the village for the monks. In this category, there are 22 precepts, but 2 of those 22 points that you should follow, especially na kayappa chalakang antaragare gamissamiti sikha karaniya, which means we must not walk in a manner that is similar to someone who has drunk, who sways side to side. And next is that you should not laugh and speak loudly when you are outside. Then these are some manners that you should have which will develop your character. Next is how to deliver Dhamma talks, or for ordinary people, manners to follow when talking with others. Dear devotees, an example is that a monk should not preach Dhamma sitting on a lower seat than the listeners. As you are lay people, you need to know what is the suitable place and suitable seat for you when talking and associating with others. This also will be useful in grooming your character. Lastly, there are 3 precepts in Sekya which explain how to protect hygiene rules in the loom or in a toilet. These are also very important manners that should be practiced by someone who desires to develop his character. Now, finally, I would say it should be clear to you that Buddhism teaches us how to develop our character so that we can be successful and have a good day-to-day life. But do not think that this is the only method taught in Buddhism. This is this is only one of the ways that the Lord Buddha has preached in developing our character.
So, so discipline, according to Buddhism and according to leadership, or in general sense, is not only about the discipline in conduct, which is as explained by Venerable Kalanadasana Thero, is mentioned in Buddhism as well. It is everything. It is working on time, finishing what we have started, delivering what we have promised, and everything what we do has to be discipline. When you have right discipline in everything you do, you will definitely drive yourself towards the success. That's the key, and that should be the foundation of success of everybody. So we spoke about 2 points. We spoke about right mindfulness, we spoke about the right character, and couple of weeks ago we spoke about the courage, the importance of having courage in our mind to keep going until we achieve our goals. But there's another thing. The courage is important and difficult, but courage to sacrifice is even more important and more difficult. Most of us know we have to sacrifice something if we need to become successful. There's a saying that there is no free meal, so you have to sacrifice. But most of us are willing and planning to sacrifice. But when it comes to the real point of sacrifice, we don't necessarily go ahead and sacrifice because we don't have the courage. We just don't have the courage to sacrifice. Venerable Sumanwansa Thero, sir, are we talking about a sacrifice and having the courage to sacrifice in Buddhism?
Mr. Karagala, everyone does sacrifice at least some small things in life. But that is not enough when we are trying to achieve our goal. To achieve our goal, we need to do bigger sacrifices. We also know this, but we don't have the courage to do it. A student or youth needs to sacrifice the time he spends on watching television and playing games so that he can improve his studies and achieve his goal. Dear devotees, you all know that you spend too much time on your mobile phone and that you need to reduce the time that you use it to become successful. People go on saying that they will stop using it, but when the time comes, they do not have the courage to do that sacrifice. An office worker, businessman, or public servant, or any other worker needs to sacrifice or dedicate his life to achieve his or her career goal so that they can live a prosperous life. Even a housewife has a duty and responsibility to fulfill in order to achieve a peaceful household life. Because of this, she needs to sacrifice most of her free time. Dear devotees, not only lay people, but also monks make sacrifices. They sacrifice worldly desires, also known as Geha Nisita Somanasa in Pali, so that we can achieve the supreme goal of attaining nirvana. Mr. Karagala, it is given in the Salayatana Vibhanga in the Majjhima Nikaya, Cha Geha Sitani Somanasani, which means that there are 6 kinds of joys in the household life. They are the gorgeous forms, rupa, or the things we see, pleasant sounds, fragrances, delicious flavors, satisfying and comfortable touches, and lastly, thoughts or mental objects, mano vinyaya dhamma. Then it is preached, cha nekkamma sitani somanassani. Dear devotees, there are 6 kinds of joys in renunciation as well. During the insight meditation, when one realizes the impermanence, suffering, and subject of change of forms or rupa, there arises joy. The same principle applies to sounds, fragrances, flavors, touches, and mental objects as well. If there is a joy in the household life, that joy is primitive when compared to the advanced joys in renunciation. Now you see, Mr. Karagala, even animals can gain the joys in the household life. But as humans, we need to have the desire to end this cycle of rebirth. We definitely have to go for the joys of renunciation as soon as possible. If you are attached to the household joys, it will lead to rebirths, maybe in the human realm or in the hells. So you need to sacrifice household joys to obtain the joys of renunciation. Dear devotees, therefore, if you are chasing eye-catching objects, melodious voices and sounds, pleasant smells, delicious flavors, comfortable touches, and mental objects, now is the time to change your chase from that to the joys of renunciation in order to achieve supreme happiness.
So, I'll quickly move into one of the points which Venerable Somanasa Thero mentioned, the joy joy we enjoy as lay people, and importance of sacrificing some of those to attain super mundane happiness. Venerable Kalanadasana Thero, can you explain this concept further and give some examples from a Buddhist perspective?
Mr. Karagala, in the same sutta that Venerable Sumanavansa Thero said, it is mentioned that Cha Geha Sitani Domanassani. Dear devotees, there are 6 kinds of griefs in the household life. They are the disgusting forms, so-called rupa, that you see, or annoying sounds, unpleasant smells, horrible flavors, painful touches, and upsetting thoughts or mental objects. After doing meditation for a long time, the practitioner realizes that he understands about the impermanence, suffering, and subject to change of forms, rupa, up to a certain level. At that time, the practitioner thinks and grieves, when will I ever become an arahant and attain enlightenment? In the same manner, he understands the impermanence, suffering, and subject to change of sound, smells, flavors, touches, and thoughts, and he again feels grief, thinking, when will I ever become an arahant and attain enlightenment? It is more worthier to grieve on grief of renunciation than to grieve on household life. An excellent example for this is the story of Mahasiva Thero, found in the commentaries. In the Anuradhapura era, there was a Thero named Mahasiva who had 30,000 disciples who gained arahantship from his teachings. But he was unable to attain enlightenment and falsely believed that he was an arahant. One day, one of his arahant disciples visited him and asked for some time to learn a sermon. Mahasiva Thero said, there is no time because all the time is already reserved for his teachings. Then the disciple said, Bhante, everyone should have time to work with yoniso manasikara. Do you even have time to die? Saying that, the disciple went away. After that, Mahasiva Thero realized that the disciple didn't come to learn anything, but to remind him to allocate time to achieve enlightenment. Then he left his place without informing others, thinking that he would be able to return in 2-3 days as an arahant. But even after 30 years of trying, he was still unable to achieve nirvana. Then he began to grieve and started to cry. Then Mahasiva Thero heard someone else crying nearby. Then asked, who is crying here? Then the nearby person replied, I am a god. Then the Thero asked, why are you crying? The god said, if crying can help, I will also get enlightened by crying. Ashamed, and after hearing this, the Thero got courage to sacrifice his whole life and attain enlightenment. Dear devotees, therefore, instead of wasting time, grieving and regretting that you couldn't obtain such eye-catching objects, melodious voices and sounds, pleasant smells, delicious flavors, comfortable touches and mental objects, it is 1,000 times worthier to grieve on not being able to obtain fruition, so-called Marga Phala. You see, Mr. Karagala, if you need to achieve any goal in day-to-day life, sometimes you have to bear up the pain and you have to sacrifice some pleasurable events like parties and gatherings. Ultimately, it is worthwhile to bear up such kinds of pain and sacrifice your resources until you develop a successful career. However, as a monk, I have to say, undoubtedly, joy in renunciation is thousands of millions of times worthier than the household joy, because only through that you will be able to attain the liberation from this harsh journey of samsara.
So as leaders, sacrificing our own gain for others, for our teams, is what lead to a greater happiness and what makes us a better leaders. But most of us are not doing that, as we hold on to what is ours due to fear. So let's learn the art of sacrificing and build the art of developing the courage to sacrifice. So we come to an end of another productive discussion about Buddhism and how practical the Buddhism is for all of us. And as always, with a great gratitude and respect, I thank Venerable Sadalankawe Kalana Dasana Thero and Venerable Gampa Sumanawasa Thero for being here and sharing the knowledge with all of us. And thank you everybody for watching us, and may Triple Gem bless all of you.